Bună dimineața și bun găsit la BU. Sunt Sabina Iosub și vă invit să rămâneți alături de mine. O să discutăm astăzi și despre ceea ce înseamnă protecția datelor la nivel european. Iată cam care a fost dezbaterea în Parlamentul European privind Facebook.
We haven't done enough to prevent these tools from being used for harm as well. That was a mistake, and I'm sorry for it.
Fondatorul Facebook a recunoscut că interferențele rusești în alegerile americane din 2016 au fost descoperite târziu. În apărarea lui a subliniat însă că rețeaua a dezactivat peste 500 de milioane de conturi false în doar 3 luni.
It's going to take time to work through all of the changes that we need to make here. But I'm committed to getting this right and to making the significant investments that are necessary to keep people safe.
Pe europarlamentari, scuzele și asigurările date de fondatorul Facebook nu i-au convins însă.
Au rămas multe întrebări însă fără răspuns, poate și pentru că a fost vorba despre un format ceva mai prietenos, special făcut pentru fondatorul Facebook.
By far not satisfying, it was too short, it was too vague, concrete questions have not been answered sufficiently. And would you guarantee that there is no interference in the forthcoming European elections was not answered.
Audierea lui Mark Zuckerberg a avut loc cu 3 zile înainte ca în Uniunea Europeană să intre în vigoare noi reguli referitoare la protecția datelor, iar fondatorul Facebook și-a luat angajamentul că le va respecta întocmai. Mulți dintre utilizatorii rețelei de socializare au fost deja notificați despre schimbările survenite.
Answered some of those questions more specifically and showed a bit more trust with the EU. The EU is now legislating so heavily in this area. The United States isn't. And I think he needs to follow this track because this will solve some of the problems that Facebook is envisaging.
Today here with me in Strasbourg is Mr. Claude Moraes, the chairman of the LIBE committee. Thank you so much for your presence, Mr. Moraes.
Happy to be here.
I've seen the discussions regarding the data protection and the Facebook scandal. You, as the chairman of the LIBE committee, have had an important you have had some important arguments during these debates. What is the situation right now in your opinion?
Well, as you know, we invited Mark Zuckerberg to come before the European Parliament. It was maybe not as successful as we wanted, but to follow this up, we've had more in-depth hearings of all the participants in the Facebook scandal, the whistleblower, the journalists, but also Facebook themselves, the various executives that are coming before us in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Now, the reason for this is that we believe the number one issue is the distortion of elections. In the last few days, we've seen more revelations from the UK Guardian linking politicians to discussions with the Russian authorities on the question of Brexit and interference on Brexit. And we have really understood now the role of Facebook in this. We know that Facebook, through Cambridge Analytica, through these specific apps which take data, concentrated very hard, and this is the most important point, on those voters who are undecided. Not the many voters who, vote one way or many voters who vote the other way, but those in the middle,
between, yeah,
who are undecided. So when
those who make the difference,
yeah,
actually.
So when people say, this didn't affect Brexit, this doesn't affect any election in Romania, this doesn't affect the German elections, the Dutch elections, they should be very careful. This kind of targeting is very ruthless. It targets those people who are very undecided, but it goes to the heart of what their vulnerabilities are, what their concerns are, and it relentlessly targets these people. And what we are finding is that it is very effective. Now, no one is arguing against our advertising or targeting, but the secret advertising and targeting, the taking of data without consent on a mass scale to manipulate elections, the kind of discussions that are going on with Russia, secret discussions, all of these revelations are coming out, and we as a parliament are determined to not allow this episode to go, because for Romania, for example, in future generations, the key point people should ask is this. If they are not worried about Facebook, they should ask this question. When I have an election, a local election or a big election in Romania, a general election, can I trust the outcome of this election? Because there will always be Russian interference. This will always come up. And the question is, can I trust the election? At the moment, European elections cannot be trusted because we still don't know how much interference has been done through social media.
The next ones, you are saying?
Yes.
The next elections.
Yes.
You know, in Romania next year we also have the presidential elections.
Yeah.
So it's a very important year. And now you're saying we still have a question mark
Yes.
regarding the next year and the next elections.
We still have a question mark because, remember, the question I asked to Mark Zuckerberg himself was all the various apps which take the data. He has taken 200 of them out, but there are many more such apps. Cambridge Analytica was only the beginning. The development of this mass taking of data for the use of manipulation of elections is an industry, and we have not got from Facebook yet the adequate assurances in law, but also morally, that they will not participate in this. What I mean is this. We have the law in the European Union called GDPR. GDPR, and I said this to Zuckerberg, and you will see it on the internet, only affects part of this business model of taking the data and using it. It only partially affects this profiling of people. This is the other issue with Facebook. The problem is that they still can do many other things within the law, because we still don't have, you know, this e-privacy law, which looks at the more detailed taking of mass data. So people should be concerned that we are talking about the very fundamental issue of our elections. And when people say, but, you know, I know how I'm voting, I'm not going to be manipulated by the press or by social media or whatever. This is not the question to ask. The question to ask is those people who switch a very close election. So if I give you an example of Brexit, this is a very close election. Only a few thousand each way in each region can sway the election. And in such an emotional election, to have such a massive manipulation at least raises the question, is it a trustworthy election? You cannot have this in democracy in Romania or UK or any other country. It's not possible because, you know, it makes people wonder why they're voting, and it makes them question what they're receiving in terms of propaganda. Now, in the old days, when you see it in newspapers, you can understand it and you can deal with it. Although we have a lot of propaganda in a country like UK with the press, but this is on a different scale. This is done secretly, it's done without people's knowledge, and Facebook now is such a global platform. I mean, if I give you the understanding that, you know, most people in the world are either on Facebook or they know someone on Facebook. It's not a small thing. It is a global issue, but it's impacting on Europe. And for your next election, I cannot, you know, say that people will not say, is there Russian interference, is there other interference? And this is what we have to get to the bottom of. We should do it here in the European Parliament because we have the laws here. We have GDPR, the data protection law. We're looking at e-privacy. Now, the United States doesn't have this law. We are here in terms of standards, and the United States is down here. China is the other big regulator, but it's China. So we have to be very clear in the European Union that we have to protect the trust in elections.
It will be a very interesting year, the next one, in terms of elections in each member state for the European elections, and in some other states there are some other types of elections. Like I've said, in Romania we have the presidential ones in the end of 2019. So nobody's actually guaranteeing now that everything will be okay, and in my opinion this is really a problem. When do you think everything should be will be put in order? Can you estimate the duration of all these analyses?
I think the Russian influence issue is now with us for the time being. We have an international order which is slightly broken. The tariffs that you saw, the G7, so you have a dysfunctional United States president. I mean, whether viewers are watching this and they like him, Trump, or they don't like him is not the issue. The issue is that there is a dysfunction. And that dysfunction is that the United States now is not protecting the world order on trade, on our prosperity. And the problem now for Facebook issues is that we will have a Russian cyber threat for the time being. So we have to fix the platforms. We have to bring them under the law. They cannot be lawless. So we have to make sure that the apps which take the data are taken out. Already Facebook are beginning to do this. They have to implement fully GDPR, which will be a big task for these big companies. It's not just Facebook. There are other platforms also. Because, you know, in the end of the day, Sabina, if you report as a journalist the news, there will come a point where this doesn't matter because you are objectively reporting the news, but all the platforms are in doubt. They are doing what they want to do.
The propaganda.
Their propaganda. And the Russian threat is there for the time being. They spend more money on this than they do on conventional defence. So this is a big weapon of influence for them. So we need to be very wary of this. And for countries also, you know, accession countries of the EU, Central Eastern European countries are particularly vulnerable to this issue. So we cannot be complacent, but we here in the European Parliament have to use the law, which we are developing. And I should mention that much of this law, like GDPR, which, you know, many Romanians are having to implement, they're getting all the emails.
Yeah.
They should realise now that this was very necessary, because this was not a small thing. This was necessary to ensure that we had a modernised data protection and privacy law. The previous one was in 1995. So, you know, any young person watching this interview should realise that we are a European Union which is modernising privacy, and we need to, because the Russian threat is there. But there will be other threats. If you have an authoritarian government that wants to pursue a cyber propaganda strategy, under the current law, the way Facebook is operating, you can do it.
I want to discuss with you also about the Schengen space, and we all know that Romania and Bulgaria are not part of this space, even though we are fulfilling all the necessary criteria in terms of technicity, let's say. What is now the discussion at the European level regarding Schengen area?
I mean, as you know, I've strongly, historically supported Romania being a full member of Schengen in every aspect. And we should not be sitting here today without Romania being in Schengen. It should be in Schengen. In my view, my committee regards objectively that Romania has fulfilled the criteria, and yet some member states still are holding out. The latest threat, Sabina, for Schengen is what I would call an existential threat. And this is the issue we are all seeing in the Mediterranean, because the Dublin reform, which is the reform of the whole asylum system, what does that mean? It means that when migrants are coming to the European Union, they are distributed properly and there is a system in place. There is no such system in place today. If this is not fixed in the next 2 months, because there is a short window, Schengen is further threatened, because Schengen is not normalised until many member states feel there is an external strong border. Romania keeps being the victim of this, because everyone in our committee, I personally feel Romania should be in Schengen right now. But these member states will use the excuse of the external border being weak to not normalise Schengen. When Schengen is normalised, Romania should be a member. It's simple. So this is the latest problem we have. But in terms of the mechanics of Schengen, Romania is there. We have done all the hard work to show that Romania is more than ready to be here. The Romanian members of the European Parliament who are here work hard on this issue. Everyone feels that this is the right thing. My committee is in the Romania's corner. The problem is member states, when they come to a council meeting, suddenly the prejudices come. This is really outrageous. It's been going on for too long. It also applies to Bulgaria, but for Romania in particular, for a country which is now growing economically, which is exporting its talent all over the world, but it is a country that needs this break. I think it's really wrong. But we need to get the Dublin reform done is another step in this journey. But as far as I'm concerned, we will continue to work hard for Romania to be a full member of Schengen.
When discussing about Brexit, we also take into consideration our Romanians who are working abroad, who are working in your country, in United Kingdom. I know that the recent development in this area of Brexit is also going to affect the Romanian citizens.
Absolutely. I mean, the latest episode in this Brexit saga, this story, some of your viewers may have seen this, is that one of Britain's biggest and only car makers, Jaguar Land Rover, is now going to go to Slovakia. And what was interesting about this was not just that this was one of our big industries left in Britain, but that the Slovakian authorities were welcoming Slovakian workers back to Slovakia. Slovakia has a high growth rate, but it's the same in Romania. What is happening with Romania is high growth rate. Many Romanians in the UK, in my constituency of London, many talented Romanians in the health service working in our industries, really many of them being now part of British society. And I have to tell you that many of them don't feel they want to still be in the UK because of the way Brexit is being negotiated. Some are still being patient, but the issue is the negotiation is going badly. Romanian citizens are not being given enough reassurances on their registration. We are working very hard on this, but the British government should have given full reassurances at the beginning, after the referendum. Now we are seeing Romanians leaving our health service. We're seeing Romanians choosing not to stay, but those who are staying are very worried. Those who are not worried is fine, but you have to remember there is a very big Romanian community in the UK, and they deserve full respect. And the Romanian citizens who came before Brexit should be citizens of the UK if they choose the registration.
In Libe Committee, you've discussed several times about the situation in Romania in the judicial area. Do you know MEDEL?
Yes, so I understand this is an organisation which has spoken about the protocols and so on.
You've heard about it.
Yes.
The recent decision of MEDEL is to spoke about the situation in Romania, about the secret protocols, to condemn them, and to even to address to the Romanian president in order to take some action regarding this situation. What is your opinion as a chairman of the Libe Committee?
So this has been brought to our attention in this latest organisation. I've seen this, and I've seen this latest information. And my view is that this is really worrying many sections of Romanian society. Romanian journalists have been looking into this, and you have been looking into this. And I want to say on this programme, it's something that my committee will look at. And I know that you, Sabina, have been analysing what this means. And I think it shows a real unfairness. Many of our Romanian MEPs here have raised this strongly with us. And, you know, our committee, Libe Committee, is dealing with so many issues. We talked about the asylum thing, we talked about Facebook, we're talking about so many issues that we're dealing with. But we must also understand that when an issue like this affects a country, and its image of itself, how its history is being portrayed and its secrets and so on, I think we also may have a role in this. So this is something my committee will look at. And it has been also raised by Romanian MEPs who are here in the European Parliament. But I do want to say that you as journalists have also raised it with us, and this is something we will take up in our committee.
Have you ever seen such a situation, to have secret protocols between secret services and the judicial system in any other European countries?
In the time that I've been chairman of this committee, I've not come across this. I've seen many things since I've been chairman of this committee, but this particular situation seems to me fairly unique. It's something new, something I've not seen before, and it does warrant an investigation. And I think this latest information from this organisation, I think, illustrates that we should look at this.
What do you consider is the most important thing to look at? The protocol between the Secret Service and the judicial system, to look at the persons who were affected, and I'm thinking now about those who are really working in the judicial system. What is the most important thing to look at?
I think, first of all, to remember we're a parliament, we're not a judicial body and not an enforcement body. Second thing to remember is that virtually every big emotional and tough issue is coming before us at the moment. My one committee has up to 40% of the work of the whole parliament at the moment. So we're dealing with every big flashpoint from Poland, Hungary, all elections. So you have to remember our resources will be limited, but when you say what are we going to look at, I think we need to objectively analyse the information which has come to us. And the most important thing is I think first, how the story was broken. The relationship between intelligence services and judiciary is something which we are able to examine because we are the guardian of the treaties. We examine fundamental rights. And independent judiciary, of course, is a critical issue. This is something we're looking at, of course, under our discussions in Poland and Hungary and so on. So this is not something that's out with our experience. We can do this. So when you ask that question, it's really this issue of fundamental rights and so on. But we mustn't pretend that we're a policing or judicial body. We're a parliamentary group. And so I'm going to raise with my colleagues what scope there is for us to look at this and investigate this.
Thank you so much for your analysis and for your comments, Mr. Moraes, and I hope to meet you again soon at BU. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabina.